We've gone along on a few of Heritage Regina's walks this summer here on the Morning Edition. We've gone past stately homes in the Lakeview neighborhood and through the history of the city's downtown. Next month, the final tour of the season, ghost tours of the College Avenue campus. We'd hoped to tell you about the tours when you could still get tickets. Last year, they sold out in 36 hours. This year, they've added 3 more tours, and all 4 sold out in just 4 hours. So the rest of us will have to take what we can get. I met Darcy Donovan in the basement of the old campus and asked him how he came to do this.
Well, that's a long story. I hope you have enough time for that. I first started working here in 2011, and I started, everybody tells you, ooh, the building's haunted, ooh, the building's haunted. And I started collecting these little stories, and then I started hearing the backstories. And then over a period of time, I started giving staff tours, and the staff tours were horribly historically inaccurate. I know we do this through Heritage Regina now, and they would be embarrassed to see my old tours because the history is terrible. And so I would give these tours just for staff. If we had a new staff, we would give a tour. And eventually I became known as the ghost tour guy. And so over a period of time, over about 10 years, I gave little staff tours here. And then over that period of time, I started doing side work for Heritage Regina. I would, shoot videos for anything that they had coming. And I had let slip that I had done this for about 10 years. And President Jackie Schmidt, Jackie gets a shout out. She voluntold me that I am going to be doing this tour. It wasn't, would you like to do the tour? It was, you are doing a tour for us. And so I panicked because I'm sitting there going, my old tours are historically inaccurate, and I know that. And so I had 6 months to do at least a somewhat decent dive into the building to get the history correct. And so we did a pilot launch last year, and we thought it would sell out in about 1 to 2 weeks, and here it sold out in 36 hours, and we were blown away at the response to this thing. And so we did it again this year, and we added 3 more dates. We had 4 dates. And we sold out in 4 hours this year. So it's been an incredible response here. And I want thanks to Heritage Regina, thanks to the University of Regina for being gracious enough to allow us to have this building. And also it's the 50th anniversary of the University of Regina this year. So this is an extra special event for them.
What do you think it is about this building that makes it haunted?
What do I think that makes it haunted? Well, Stefani, you and I are sitting in room 028 in the basement of the building. And many people know that this used to be the cafeteria. And the legend in this building, and which is actually true, is that in the cafeteria in December of 1920, this is where people drank a contaminated milk in here. And this is where they became sick. And they ended up, this building was made into a makeshift hospital in 1920, where 79 people were housed, and 8 students and 1 professor died in this building, inside this building. So when you have a place where people have died, of course, naturally, this is where they said, their spirits are still here type of thing. So that's where a lot of the ghost stories originate.
What was wrong with the milk?
Okay, so back in those days, that's a really good question, by the way. What happened in those days is they served raw milk, and this is not me bashing raw milk. You just have to be extra careful with raw milk. And in this case, what had happened was there was a farmhand who had what they called walking typhoid. So he was a carrier, and so when he delivered the milk, somehow he had transferred that into the milk, and from there, basically, all of the students and the staff drank it. And in those days, you had about an 11 or 12% chance of dying of typhoid. And if you do the math, 79 people and 9, it's basically right on the money for the number of people that would die of typhoid. So unfortunately, it came from a local farm within 5 kilometers of the city. This was actually an incident that changed the laws in the city of Regina. They actually banned raw milk from the city 1 year after this incident. It was because of this incident. And one of the things that I did over the summer, and this is just something that I did, and because it's like I always said that the ghost chose me, I didn't didn't choose them, as just the way the history has gone on this. I went to every single one of their graves over the summer. They're all within 2 hours of Regina. Only one is buried here in Regina, but I went to all of the graves, and one notable one, which is just about 40 minutes from here. And I went to a local business there, Katie's Country Treasures. She's closed right now for the winter, but shout out to Katie. And her building is actually it was a former church where this young gentleman's funeral took place. And so I told her, I had told her that, this is where Frank Ritzen's funeral took place. And she had messaged me after that, because it's like for each of these graves, I left a cherub, I left an information card, and I left a rose for each of them, just in case somebody comes upon the graves. And in this case, for Katie's Country Treasures, she messaged me and said, me and my husband have adopted this grave. This child is now ours. And I was like, that's amazing. It's one of those, it was a feel-good story for me. I was like, this makes it all the more worth it. That trip alone was worth it.
How old were these students? How old was the person buried in that grave?
Frank would have been around 15, 16. The youngest was 13. She's buried just north of Belle Plaine in Stony Beach. And the oldest was 28, and she's buried near Waka, I believe. And so the ages were 13 to 28. Remember, this was a finishing school back then. So a lot of students, they would get up to about grade 8 in the rural communities. And then if they wanted their grade 12, they would have to come here. So this wasn't a university until, really 1974, like a full-fledged university until 1974. It was a finishing school. So you would come here and finish your primary schooling. So yeah.
You mentioned how popular these tours are. Why do you think that is?
I have a very easy answer for this, and it's because so many people have spent a lot of childhoods here. Last year, most notably, there are benches in the lobby in the atrium here that are actually repurposed from the old lecture theater. And a young lady was on the tour last year, and she saw the bench, and she said, I used to sit in 106. I used to sit in 106 when I waited for my conservatory classes. And so she recognized it. And I sent her a photo later with a circle, because it's like I have pictures I have over 1,000 photos of the old building. And this is another reason why I ended up being the ghost tour guide. But I had a circle of where the bench was. She's like, yes, that's where I sat. And many people have so many fond memories of this building. It's not just a building. Basically it's where a lot of community has come together. And the tour is mainly the heart and soul of that. It is made the heart and soul of that. It's a deep dive into the heart and soul of this building.
Have you had any experiences with ghosts yourself in this building?
Well, I hope your audio is going to work today, because we're actually in the one that has been identified as the most active area in the entire building. And in 2016, there was evidence of this because I used to give just staff tours, and because we were getting removed from the building for 2 years while this was being renovated, we had done one last ghost tour. I got somebody to record it, and so we go through the whole building. We get to the end of the tour, and we come right here in room 028, which was the old pottery room. And at the very end of it all, for the first and only time, the equipment fails. The audio cuts out. The second that I say the tour is over, there's actually a bunch of other things that we talk about. But as soon as I say the tour is over, the audio cuts out. And that is the only time ever that it has happened for our equipment that we use.
What's going to happen to all of these stories that you will deliver in the tour? But not everyone can go on the tour, and we're just scratching the surface. What are you going to do with these so we have them in the future?
You're putting me on the spot here. That's so funny. No, it's funny. What I want to do with this ultimately is, because I have so much material, I'm actually busy cutting out material from this tour this year because I have so much. This could be a 2-3 hour tour, easy. But that would be exhausting people's attention span. But at some point, I do want to put this into a book, because at some point it is screaming for it to be in a book, or if somebody wants to come along and help make a documentary out of it, that would be great too. But it's right now my focus is getting through these tours, and then I'm going to have a long nap when they're done. So,
thank you, Darcy.
Thank you very much, Stefani. It's an honor to be here.